Yellowstone just exploded again, and this time, scientists say the ground is changing fast. Yellowstone National Park is one of the most famous places in the world. Every year, millions of people visit to see its geysers, wildlife, and beautiful landscapes. Families pose for photos at Old Faithful. Hikers marvel at the Grand Canyon of Yellowstone. Wildlife enthusiasts watch herds of bison roam freely across ancient valleys. But few know that right under their feet lies something massive and dangerous. A supervolcano. This isn't just any volcano, it's one of the largest and most active in the world. And lately something strange has been happening. The ground is shaking. Hot springs are bursting without warning, and the new discovery has scientists more alert than ever. What makes Yellowstone so unique isn't just its size, it's its structure. Unlike the cone-shaped volcanoes we see in movies, Yellowstone is a caldera volcano. Imagine a giant underground bubble of molten rock, miles wide and deep. When it erupts, it doesn't build a mountain. Instead, the ground collapses inward, creating a massive crater. That crater, the Yellowstone caldera, measures about 30 by 45 miles across. It's so large that most visitors don't even realize they're inside an active volcano. The entire park sits on top of this sleeping giant. In May 2025, Yellowstone experienced 119 earthquakes. Most were small, but they didn't happen randomly. They came in swarms, groups of tiny quakes over a short time. 3 different swarms shook the park in just 1 month. The biggest quake hit near Yellowstone Lake on May 26, with a magnitude of 2. That might not sound strong, but what matters is the pattern. These swarms usually point to movement underground, and sometimes they're a warning. The earthquake swarms weren't isolated events. They followed a concerning pattern that scientists have been tracking for years. The first swarm occurred near Mammoth Hot Springs in early May, with 23 small quakes over 3 days. The second hit the central caldera region mid-month, producing 40. The third and largest swarm centered around Yellowstone Lake, generating 49 earthquakes in just 48 hours. Each swarm had its own fingerprint, a unique depth, frequency, and duration that told scientists something different about what was happening below. Just a few days later, on May 31st, Yellowstone showed signs that it's still very much alive. At a place called Black Diamond Pool in Biscuit Basin, a hydrothermal explosion was caught on camera. Without warning, steam and hot water blasted 20 feet into the air. The explosion lasted only seconds, but it sent shockwaves through the scientific community. It wasn't the first time either. In 2024, the same pool exploded, damaging the boardwalk and forcing tourists to evacuate. That explosion caused panic. This one caused question. Why is it happening again? And now more often. The 2024 explosion had been particularly violent. Tourists described hearing a sound like thunder before seeing rocks the size of basketballs flying through the air. The wooden boardwalk was destroyed for 50 feet in every direction. Hot mud and debris covered the area. Park officials closed the entire basin for weeks while they rebuilt the walkways and installed new safety barriers. But the real work was happening underground, where scientists scrambled to understand what had changed. While the public watched these events unfold, scientists had already been digging deeper. In April 2025, a team of researchers made a big discovery. They found something unusual beneath the surface, a magma cap. This dense layer of molten rock sits just 2.5 miles under Yellowstone. It's rich in gases and acts like a natural valve, releasing pressure slowly instead of letting it build up and explode. You can think of it like the safety valve on a pressure cooker. Without it, a super eruption could be much more likely. With it, the system can breathe. The discovery came from a technique called seismic tomography, essentially taking X-rays of the Earth using earthquake waves. Dr. Sarah Chen, lead researcher at the University of Utah, described the magma cap as nature's own pressure release system. The layer is about 400 feet thick and extends across roughly 30 square miles. It's composed of partially molten rock with a consistency similar to thick honey. Most importantly, it's riddled with tiny channels that allow gas to escape gradually. This discovery made headlines. For the first time, experts could see how Yellowstone was managing its internal pressure. The Magma Cap explained why Yellowstone can stay quiet even though it's alive, but it didn't mean everything was safe. In fact, this made scientists even more curious about what might come next. The cap's stability depends on temperature, pressure, and the chemical composition of the magma below. If any of these factors change significantly, the cap could crack or collapse entirely. To understand the risk, we have to go back in time, millions of years. Yellowstone supervolcano has erupted 3 times in the past. The first time, about 2.1 million years ago, it created the Huckleberry Ridge caldera. The second eruption came 1.3 million years ago, forming the Mesa Falls caldera, but the biggest and most recent eruption was 6. That event, known as the Lava Creek eruption, blew out more than 1,000 cubic kilometers of ash and rock. That's more than 1,000 times bigger than the Mount St. Helens eruption in The Lava Creek eruption was a planet-changing event. Ash fell as far away as the Atlantic Ocean. The explosion was so powerful that it could be heard 2,000 miles away. Animals as far as Nebraska were buried under volcanic ash. The eruption column reached 25 miles into the atmosphere, twice as high as commercial jets fly. For months afterward, global temperatures dropped by several degrees as ash blocked sunlight. Crops failed across North America. Ancient human populations were forced to migrate or face starvation. The Lava Creek eruption destroyed everything in its path and changed the climate across the globe. It also left behind the Yellowstone caldera we know today, a giant crater mostly hidden by forests and lakes. Most people don't know they're walking on a collapsed volcano, but it's there, and it's not asleep. Since that eruption, Yellowstone has continued to change. Dozens of smaller eruptions have taken place. Lava has flowed. Steam explosions have reshaped the land. Nearly 10,000 geysers, hot springs and mud pots dot the park. All of these are signs that heat from below is still rising. They also tell us that this volcano is not. The geological record shows that Yellowstone goes through cycles of activity and rest. Between major eruptions, the volcano produces smaller lava flows, builds new domes, and creates the thermal features we see today. The most recent lava flow occurred about 70. While that might seem ancient, it's just a blink of an eye in geological terms. The volcano remains active, and the cycle continues. Every year, Yellowstone experiences anywhere from 700 to 3,000 earthquakes. Most are too small to feel, but they tell an important story. These tiny shakes are Yellowstone's heartbeat. The ground is always moving, always shifting. These movements show that the volcano is alive and active, and they're carefully watched by scientists. The Yellowstone Volcano Observatory operates a network of 28 seismometers throughout the park. These sensitive instruments can detect earthquakes as small as magnitude 0.5 tremors so weak that even animals can't feel them. The data flows continuously to monitoring stations at the University of Utah, the U.S. Geological Survey, and Yellowstone National Park headquarters. Computer algorithms analyze every shake, categorizing them by location, depth, and probable cause. Many of these earthquakes come in swarms, multiple quakes over a short period of time. These swarms aren't always dangerous. Often they're caused by water and gas moving through underground cracks, but sometimes they hint at magma on the move. That's when scientists pay even closer attention. In 1985, Yellowstone was rocked by over 3,000 quakes in just 3 months. In 2008, 900 small quakes hit near Yellowstone Lake in 2 weeks. In 2010, more than 1,600 tremors shook the ground. And in 2014, a magnitude 4.8 quake, the strongest in over 30 years, hit near Norris Geyser Basin. That one got everyone's attention. The 2014 earthquake was particularly significant because it occurred at a relatively shallow depth of just 3 miles. Most Yellowstone earthquakes happen much deeper, between 5 and 10 miles depth. Shallow quakes suggest that whatever is causing them is closer to the surface, and potentially more dangerous. The 2014 event was felt by visitors throughout the park and caused minor damage to some buildings. More importantly, it was followed by increased thermal activity at several hot springs, suggesting a connection between seismic activity and the hydrothermal system. Fast forward to 2025, and it's happening again. 3 new swarms, hundreds of small quakes, one after the other, and while none have been strong, each one adds to a growing concern. Scientists are watching every detail. They track how deep the quakes are, where they happen, what gases rise from the surface, what the ground is doing. So far they say Yellowstone is not about to erupt, but they don't ignore the signs. While the ground shakes, other dangers rise silently. One of the biggest threats at Yellowstone is something few visitors know about: hydrothermal explosions. These blasts happen when water deep underground gets trapped, heated, and suddenly turns into steam. When that steam is released, it can blow apart the surface with force. Rocks, hot water and mud fly into the air, damaging everything nearby. Hydrothermal explosions are actually more common than volcanic eruptions at Yellowstone. They've occurred throughout the park's history, creating craters that range from a few feet to several hundred feet across. The largest known explosion created Mary Bay on Yellowstone Lake about 13,000 years ago. That blast excavated a crater more than 1.5 miles wide and 300. If a similar explosion occurred today in a popular area of the park, it could kill hundreds of people. In July 2024, Black Diamond Pool exploded, damaging the area and shocking visitors. In early 2025 it happened again, caught on camera this time. Similar explosions happened in the past at places like Pork Chop Geyser and Norris Geyser Basin. They're not caused by magma, they're caused by pressure, and they're deadly. Some blasts can happen without warning. That's why the park warns people to stay on boardwalk. In 2024, a tourist was badly burned after stepping just a few feet off the trail. One small mistake and nature does not forgive. The danger isn't just from the explosion itself. The water temperature in many of Yellowstone's thermal features exceeds 200 BF depth, hot enough to cause third-degree burns in seconds. The ground around hot springs is often thin and unstable, covered by mineral deposits that can break through without warning. Park rangers respond to about 20 thermal burn injuries each year, many of them severe. Some victims require immediate helicopter evacuation and months of treatment. To keep visitors safe, the Yellowstone Volcano Observatory installed webcams and new sensors after the 2020. These tools help detect changes in heat, sound and ground movement. If pressure builds again, they might catch it early, but even then, not all explosions can be predicted. Some just happen. The monitoring system at Yellowstone is one of the most sophisticated in the world. In addition to seismometers, the park hosts GPS stations that can detect ground deformation as small as a millimeter. Thermal cameras monitor temperature changes across the landscape. Gas sensors measure the composition and quantity of volcanic gases being released. Satellite imagery tracks changes in ground elevation and thermal patterns from space. Perhaps most importantly, the park's webcam network provides real-time visual monitoring of key thermal areas. These cameras not only help scientists spot changes, but also serve as an early warning system for visitors. If an explosion occurs, park officials can immediately close affected areas and evacuate tourists. The system has already proven its worth, detecting several smaller explosions before they could cause injuries. Still, explosions and earthquakes aren't the only concern. Another danger rises from the ground. Quiet, invisible and ancient, Yellowstone is releasing a rare gas called helium. Most people have never heard of it, but scientists are shocked by how much is escaping, about 60 tons every year. That's thousands of times more than usual, and what makes it special is where it comes from. This helium has been trapped underground for billions of years. It's not from magma. It's from Earth's oldest rocks, and now, Yellowstone is letting it out. The helium discovery has profound implications for understanding Yellowstone's deep structure. Most helium-4 is produced by radioactive decay in ancient rocks, while helium-3 comes from the mantle. By measuring the ratio of these two isotopes, scientists can determine whether they're seeing evidence of deep magma movement or simply changes in the crustal structure. The current helium-4 release suggests that cracks are opening in very old rocks, potentially creating new pathways for gas and fluid movement. Along with helium, other gases like carbon dioxide, sulfur dioxide, and hydrogen sulfide rise through steam vents. In open air, they're not dangerous, but in low spots or on cold, still nights they can build up and become deadly. In 1897, animals were found dead in Death Gulch, likely killed by these gases. In 2004, 5 bison were killed near Norris Geyser Basin after breathing toxic air. These cases are rare but real. The ground may look safe, but looks can be deadly. Carbon dioxide is particularly dangerous because it's heavier than air and can accumulate in depressions. At concentrations above 7%, it can cause unconsciousness and death within minutes. Hydrogen sulfide, recognizable by its rotten egg smell, is toxic at much lower concentrations. Even sulfur dioxide, which gives some hot springs their distinctive odor, can cause respiratory problems in sensitive individuals. For scientists, these gases are more than a safety risk, they're also clues. Changes in gas levels can reveal what's happening underground. If the ratio of helium-3 to helium-4 rises suddenly, that might mean magma is rising. Right now, gas levels are normal, but scientists check them constantly. They want to catch any changes before they lead to something worse. And that's why the Magma Cap discovery matters so much. It gives Yellowstone a way to release pressure safely. It explains why we've seen no major eruptions, but it also raises a scary question. How long can it hold? Is it a permanent safety feature, or just a short delay before something bigger? Some scientists believe Yellowstone is slowly cooling, venting pressure over thousands of years. Others believe we're just in a quiet phase, that the next big eruption is still coming, and we just don't know what. Computer models suggest that if Yellowstone does erupt again, there would be warning signs for weeks or months beforehand. The current monitoring system would detect significant changes in earthquake patterns, ground deformation and gas emission. This advance warning could allow for evacuation of the immediate area, though the global effects would be unavoidable. If Yellowstone does erupt again, the damage would be global. The last super eruption sent ash across North America. It would darken the sky, ruin crops, ground planes, and cause panic. More than 200 million people might have to evacuate. The air would be dangerous to breathe. Life would change for everyone, not just those near the park. The economic impact alone would be staggering. The Yellowstone super eruption would likely trigger a global recession lasting years. Agriculture would be devastated across multiple continents. Transportation systems would shut down. The ash would damage infrastructure, contaminate water supplies, and require massive cleanup effort. Some scientists estimate the total cost could exceed $3 trillion. This is why Yellowstone is one of the most closely watched places on Earth. Dozens of sensors, cameras, satellites, and labs track every sound and tremor. Scientists monitor, and they've become much better at reading the signs. Right now, they say we are safe, but they also say we must not stop watching. The Yellowstone Volcano Observatory employs some of the world's leading experts in volcanology, seismology, and geochemistry. They work closely with emergency management agencies to ensure that if something does happen, response plans are ready. Regular drills test evacuation procedures. Public education programs help visitors understand the risks and know how to stay safe. International cooperation is also crucial. Yellowstone's potential global impact has made it a focus of scientific collaboration between the United States, Canada, and other nations. Researchers share data, compare monitoring techniques, and develop improved forecasting methods. The goal is to ensure that if Yellowstone does show signs of awakening, the world will be as prepared as possible. Because Yellowstone doesn't shout,
It whispers, through tiny shakes, warm gas, and short bursts of steam, but beneath it all lies something powerful, something ancient, something waiting. The question isn't whether Yellowstone will erupt again, it's when, and until that day comes, scientists will continue their vigilant watch, reading the subtle signs that this sleeping giant sends from its depth. Every earthquake, every gas measurement, every temperature change adds to our understanding of this magnificent and dangerous place. For now, millions of visitors can continue to enjoy Yellowstone's wonders safely. The geysers still erupt on schedule. The hot springs still shimmer with impossible colors. The wildlife still roams free, but underneath it all the Earth's pulse continues, reminding us that we live on a planet that is very much alive. Hit subscribe if you want the real truth about the world's most dangerous places before they make the